On January 9, 2025, the Ukrainian parliament officially recognized the Circassian genocide.
So this conference is held in cooperation between Circassians and Ukrainians in the United States. And the purpose of this conference is really to show solidarity with Ukraine and also show the importance of the Ukrainian recognition of the Circassian genocide that happened recently and the impact of that recognition on the Circassian communities and the Circassian nations throughout the world, as well as the importance of this recognition for Ukraine's record of advocating human rights and historical justice, not only for Ukraine, but for all other nations who are under the aggression and oppression of the Russian Federation. Also, it included in the conference, and actually the main purpose was to show the real prisoners of Putin and the case of the political prisoners of the enslaved nations that are the occupation of Russia. Well, let me approach this from the perspective of recognition of the Circassian genocide by Ukraine. Relation between the Circassian and Ukrainians go back about 10, 11 years ago, since the first war, Russia occupation of areas of Ukraine, and the Circassian community in the United States, as well as the other communities throughout the world, worked with Ukraine to support Ukraine. And we established the so-called American-European Solidarity Council here in New York City, and Circassian have been participating with Ukrainian in demonstration conferences and other activities to support Ukraine in the Western world, especially in the United States. And in the past few years, a couple of years, we have been addressed the issue of Ukraine recognizing the Circassian genocides. Many Circassians throughout the world in different or working together have submitted to the Ukrainian parliament to recognize the Circassian genocide. The recognition did happen a couple of months ago, and Circassians consider this to be a big achievement for Circassians historically. And this would be the second nation, of course, to recognize the Circassian genocide. Georgia was the first nation to recognize the Circassian genocide and the tragedy of Circassians and the need to establish the right of Circassians to live free in their nation. The recognition itself had elevated the Circassian and the world awareness of the Circassian hidden tragedy, and we call that among Circassians, we call this Circassian recognized the hidden and the continuing genocide, because Russia still maintains the same circumstances it had against the Circassian nations in the 19th century and the 20th century, whether it was during the imperialist Russia or the Soviet Union or today's Russian Federation. Meaning that Circassians do not have rights in their motherland Circassia, and the Circassian diaspora that comprised more than 90% of the Circassian nation that lived in diaspora, they have no right to repatriate to their homeland, they have no right to communicate and connect with our brothers and sisters in our homeland. So for us, making the world aware of the Circassian tragedy in the past and the present, and the need to have a better future, this recognition of the Circassian genocide put this on the front of the international event, so to speak, as far as Circassians are concerned. And of course, this also showed that Ukraine as a nation, as a free nation, democratic nation, it advocates human rights not only for Ukrainians, but also for other nations such as Circassians, Crimean Tatars, and all these other nationalities that are oppressed by Russia and in different parts of the world. So the human rights record for Ukraine is excellent, and recognition of the Circassian genocide, and prior to that, the Chechen genocide, the recognition of the Chechen genocide made it even more important internationally to recognize that Ukraine is a free, democratic country advocating human rights and the right of nations to exist free and independent. Exactly. Well, that's what they're doing. That's what empires do when they lose the ability to control other nations and they lose the control, so to speak, of those nations to serve for the interest of Russia. They do commit atrocities and crimes against humanities, and they do try to oppress people in order to suppress the voices and to rob freedom away from our nations for their own benefit. And what's going on in Ukraine today is actually a genocide to come to a nation, sovereign nation, independent, free nation, democratic, recognized internationally, member of the United Nations, and to attack them and to occupy their territories and try to imprison people and displace people, kidnap children, and all these other things. These are the elements of the genocide, the definition of the genocide that is recognized internationally, and that is in a charter of the United Nations Human Rights Commission, the definition of the genocide. They are following the book on how to commit a genocide in Ukraine, bombing civilians, bombing hospitals, bombing schools, destroying power plants, and all these other things. The purpose of this is to destroy a nation and to get control of that nation. So that is a true genocide. The American Organization for Genocide Scholars in the United States and internationally, the main purpose is to prevent the genocide. The only way to prevent a genocide is to recognize the genocide internationally and to bring to justice the people who committed genocide. So in the future, we will be able to prevent similar genocide, just like what's happening now in Ukraine. So historically, if the world recognized the Circassian genocide in the 19th and 20th century, which was the first modern history genocide, then the Armenian genocide would not have happened, and the Holocaust would not have happened, and what's going on today in Ukraine would not have happened. So it is a very important step to prevent the genocide from happening, not only for Circassians and Ukrainians, but other nations too in the future, is to recognize ongoing genocide against one nation and to make the world stand against it. I would like to add two important things, Anton, if you would please. The recognition of the Circassian genocide happened primarily by the work of many Circassians throughout the world, but in a focal point, the Ukrainian Parliament, the Verkhovna Rada, reached the point of recognizing the genocide based on documentations presented to the Ukrainian Parliament, mainly in the books of Captain Adil Bashkawi, talking about, these are contemporary books in the market today, talk about the tragedy of the Circassian nation and the genocide committed against us, which was given to parliamentarian Maria Mizintseva, who brought it in to the Khorovna Rada, and who worked with her colleague tirelessly day and night in order to get the recognition of the Circassian genocide. But this is not to say that other Circassians did not really pursue this. Many of them did, and many of them sent letters and sent communications to the Ukrainian government, to Ukrainian parliaments and others, to encourage Ukraine to recognize the Circassian genocide. But mainly the one who led actually the movement in this is in the Ukrainian parliament. It was Maria Mesentsova and her colleagues who brought in through that special committee the successful resolution to recognize the Circassian genocide. Number two, and very importantly, it seems to me we heard the news that the Ukrainian government is not only had recognized the genocide, and this is very significant, Anton, by the way. The Ukrainian government issued a request for all nations through diplomatic channels, for all nations of the world, through the diplomatic relations and connections to other nations of the world, to also encourage them to recognize the Circassian genocide. And I hope that this will come out soon, and we'll see the significance of Ukraine not only recognizing the Circassian genocide, but encouraging and asking other free nation and democratic nation and human rights loving nations of the world also to recognize the Circassian genocide. And for that, we are very grateful. I would like to add also, and I should have mentioned this earlier, the accelerated process actually of the recognition of the genocide was led in Ukraine and in Europe by my dear brother, Prime Minister Ahmed Zakayev of Republic of Chechnya, and him and his colleagues, and my dear brother Shamil Albakov and Yanal Sharif are the one who really worked closely with our Crimean Tatar friends and our Ukrainian friends in order to get the recognition of the genocide to its successful results today. And we have also believed in last year, we established the so-called North Caucasus Nations Committee, and the purpose of this committee is to unify and unite all the nations of the world, the North Caucasus, Circassians, Chechens, Ingush, and Dagestanis, all of them all together in order to work together to find ways and means of uniting in our opposition to the Russian policies in our motherland, the North Caucasus, for all our nations. And for that, I would like to thank my brother, Prime Minister Ahmed Zakayev, and all the people who work with him in order to bring in a successful achievement for the Circassians and for the North Caucasus people in Ukraine.